I had trouble finding the updated link.
Good morning, everybody. I'm glad you were able to join us today on Wednesday for it's our third part. The second part we have rescheduled let me double check real quick. The second part we rescheduled for March 24th. So everybody that registered for that, I went ahead and brought them over. So when that one occurs, you will be getting an email from us. It's going to be at the same time. We're going to be joining back after spring break. I want to go ahead and welcome Mr. Chris Tripoli, our special guest for today, and I'm going to go ahead and let him take over.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining, and I appreciate the time that you're giving us to discuss our Restaurant Reality series. Today, we're talking about the industry's best practices in marketing. And so for the next hour, we're going to talk about some principles of marketing and promotion for restaurants, some of which that have been affected with, of course, the recent pandemic. Some are basic principles that are not necessarily at all. We're also going to talk about some specific examples of things that are going right and maybe some misconceptions. So those of you who are on today from that are advisors might be able to pick up some things that will help when we work with our clients trying to plan marketing and promotion plans for independent restaurants. The first thing I think that's really, really important is for us to kind of put marketing and promotion of restaurants into context, because today we are marketing to two types of customers. Post-COVID, we now have the active guest, those who are feeling a little bit more willing and more regular to be out and about. They, even with maybe restricted seating capacities, they've been in your restaurant. They are abiding, by the social distancing. They wear their mask upon entry. They're eating and drinking. And when they're not necessarily in your restaurants, they're perfectly willing to increase their regularity by doing curbside pickup. We've seen a tremendous increase in curbside pickup, delivery, third party. So that's the active guest. The problem, though, is most recently we've only seen in the statewide survey that 64% of the regular diners would categorize themselves as an active guest again. So that means the second guest we have is what we're calling the hesitant guest. They enjoy dining out, but they're just not back yet. Okay, that's 40-some% of the people are still waiting. Maybe they're a little fearful. Maybe they're not necessarily trusting in others and the ability to be out in public with the way others may be behaving. There's a number of reasons, but the problem that we're faced with, and what we're going to talk about today, is how we can put together marketing to touch both. How do we stay in the mind's eye of that hesitant guest and not have them forget about us when they're not, thinking about going out? How can that customer behavior be part of our regular marketing program? Some of you might remember how we always talked about that the best marketing starts with operations. And that hasn't changed. COVID hasn't changed that. So that's why you don't want to be surprised if when you're coming to the SBDC or you're working with an advisor and you're talking about a dip in sales and you need help with marketing, you don't believe that you have a good marketing plan, maybe you want to ask a lot of questions about what type of advertising works. And the first response you get is, let's take a look at your numbers, let's study your customers, let's see how you're currently operating. And you're wondering, why? Well, because typically the best and most effective restaurant marketing has always been smooth, consistent implementation of your operations. And doesn't that make sense? When you think of it, when customers are in your restaurant, they're basically captive to your experience for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour or longer. So the experience that you're providing, if we do it well, isn't just to operate through the day. It's to market our message, to bond with them for their tomorrow business, for their next week business, for their party planning. That's where the old saying, the old restaurant saying that was made famous by Norman Brinker, Brinker International, back when he first took over Chili's. And this was when I believe Chili's restaurants based in Dallas were just beginning to grow. They only had about 12 units at the time. maybe more. But anyway, it was the early 80s. So for most of you, this is like the dark ages. I mean, we're talking 40 years ago. For some of you, you're thinking, okay, mom and dad haven't thought of me at that time. And the guy's talking about a marketing strategy. Well, that was the first time we started hearing the words, the four walls of marketing, that the best marketing comes within the four walls of your operation. So if you really study within your operation, your little cafe or your breakfast, coffee bakery, or your fine dining establishment, your casual restaurant, your bar, if you really study what the customer sees when they're experiencing what goes on within those four walls, and start looking at not as operations, but start looking at that as marketing, because you're sending your message in the way they're greeted and the way the lighting is and the background music and the way the menu's presented, the time they're having, the service they're getting, how happy they are when they're leaving. That's a marketing message. And it lasts longer than, say, a 30-second spot. It lasts a lot longer than maybe a billboard that somebody might see on a freeway when they're doing 80 miles an hour and it takes about 4 seconds. So this is lasting. So what I want to start with today is the four walls of marketing for today, for 40 years later, because COVID changed some things. And even if COVID didn't, customer behavior changed some things. So your four walls now are including the outside, because outside dining is much more important than ever before. It can't be an afterthought. We're not sending a good marketing message if the outside doesn't match the inside, or if the outside was just 4 or 5 tables, or a deck that's poorly maintained, or plants that are dead, or a ceiling fan that's hanging that doesn't work, or no music speakers. In other words, if it isn't included in with the design and the atmosphere of the inside, then we're not really sending a good marketing message. And the four walls are now sort of adding a fifth wall, outdoor. The four walls of marketing also are adding a sixth wall, drive-through service, a seventh one, third-party delivery, curbside pickup, an eighth one, phone ordering, because to-go is high. How about online ordering, the way our website? So our four walls of marketing could really be called the 9 walls of marketing now, because we've expanded the guest experience to not just be in our dining room. And some of this was happening before COVID. Think about it, you operators that are there. You saw a spike in people online. You saw more people using their apps, more people looking for the website to get your menu, your offering, get directions. We were heading this way anyway. We had curbside pickup fairly popular anyway. So then COVID comes along like a 5-gallon barrel of gasoline dropped on a fire and just exploded it. So now the bright marketing minds of restaurants have gone with it quickly. We've now got a tidal wave of marketing that includes the current customer behavior. And so 4 walls of marketing, remember them, but you might want to interpret them as 8 or 9 walls now. We've grown a bit. So best marketing starts with your well-executed operations. How many of you actually plan your marketing? By that, I mean, if it's part of our operations, it should be part of our operating plan, much like we have an annual revenue plan, right? Much like you might have a manager's evaluation form, or when you were opening or expanding, you had a budget and a timeline. But I'm surprised by the amount of independent restaurant operators that don't necessarily have a marketing plan where they actually lay out the year and list what types of events might work for me. What's worked in the past? When do they work? What's the guest that I'm going to be attracting to that event? What's the timeline before that event so I can plan? Then basically we can put a cost to it. What's the cost in order to do this event? Who's am I assigning duties? So if right now we're thinking that, well, next month is March, maybe we should do something for St. Patty's Day, and we're just thinking about it now, then that means at least we're giving ourselves a few weeks head start. But it doesn't mean that we really had an annual plan, because it would have already been in the plan. We would have known a few months ago what we want to do in March, and we would have known how many weeks before in March do we need to do things, develop marketing materials, come up with our menu special, cost out our menu special, test it out, staff training, update the website. Maybe we do an email blast. All those things should have been in a timeline. If not, if we're just now thinking that, hey, let me get my staff together and let's say, what do you guys want to do for St. Patty's Day? Then we're not really marketing by plan, are we? We're just reacting to an event. And I'm going to plead guilty here. I remember years ago, I remember managing restaurants thinking, oh my God, it's February. We got to do something for Valentine's Day. It's about 2 weeks away. What do we want to do? So what are we going to bake that's chocolate? Who's going to run to Walmart, buy anything that's pink? Just go. We're going to hang some pink and we're going to cut out hearts and we'll give ladies that walk in flowers and we'll have a chocolate dessert. Yay, Valentine's Day plan. And that was basically done 5 days before Valentine's Day. So the good news was it may have looked Valentine's. The point was it wasn't a plan. We didn't really have a timeline. We didn't have expectations. We had no goal. What was the targeted consumer? How many additional two tops are we going to need in the dining room to handle the amount of, couples that we might be dining? What type of revenue expectation are we going to be expecting from this Valentine's Day special? And then we can look at it later, see, hey, did it work? Was the investment worthwhile? Did we recoup our investment? Did we send out the right message? So an annual plan is absolutely necessary in marketing. And the first thing that we're going to learn, and you probably guessed it already, is I haven't used the word advertising because too many times people think advertising is marketing. So we're all going to talk about maybe different ads and the print ads of yesteryear and the coupons that are gone, but how people are placing ads today that work. Well, advertising isn't marketing. Advertising is a part of marketing. There's 3 basic parts of a good restaurant marketing plan. And the first part is what we call local store marketing, LSM. So some of you are nodding your heads. Okay, you got it. That's the events we plan in the restaurant. That speaks to the experience. Certain events. You notice the restaurants that maybe you like to go to and you're responding to an email invitation for their Thursday wine dinner. See, that's a local store promotion. It's in-house, it's a Thursday something, or it's a Monday night something, or it's a Sunday family meal, something that you're promoting, or it's a family meal, kids eat free kind of a thing. Maybe that only happens on Wednesdays. So local store marketing is the first one of the 3. It seems to be the one that if we really plan correctly, we execute right, seems to have the best bond with our customer. So that's what's most important there. The second one is media. What type of media works best to execute our brand? So we're going to talk about the types of media. Sure, it can still be a printed ad. It might be some radio, it might be a little TV. It could, however, be an awful lot of the newer style marketing that's working, the digital marketing, social media, how we live off of our YouTube videos that we can create, and our Instagram photos of food, and our Yelp reviews, and that kind of thing. And then the third one, and we're going to spend some time on that today too, is image or public relations. So a good marketing plan should have all 3. We shouldn't just live on, I really do cool events. Although those are important, we need to find what is the best media to inform and follow up and promote those events. And then what is the community bonding? What's the public relations? What's my image in the community? Now, the combination of these 3, for those of you who are already thinking in terms of budget, should typically cost 3, maybe 4% of your annual revenue. Many advisors have worked with restaurants due to the lower sales volume, or a proper marketing plan winds up constituting 5, maybe 6% of total revenue. And that's not that out of line, especially if it works and it's building revenue, then that marketing expense is basically becomes a lower percentage. But on average, most of the independent restaurant operators that I've worked with, and most of the time whenever we review surveys, we find the ones that seem to be marketing well with a good plan and instigating a plan, if they take the total cost of that plan, social media, print items, costs for promotion of events, et cetera, it's usually 3, maybe 4% of sales. So that makes sense? Okay, let's go forward now. We're going to dig in on the 3 steps, and maybe you can start making notes, or hopefully some light bulbs are going to blink on how they might work for your particular restaurant. Remember, we're talking about restaurant marketing best practices. So marketing practices work for all of you. Whether you're talking about how do I promote where my food truck goes, or how should I be marketing my special event catering program, or I am a full service restaurant. And there's probably many types of restaurants that are out there now listening. Some of you might be those cool breakfast, lunch, limited hour restaurants. And some of you may be the chef-driven, open evening only restaurant. You're not exempt from putting together a good package of all 3 of these steps. So, is marketing advertising? No. But is it part of advertising? Sure, it really is. Local store marketing is going to have things like everything that happens inside. Your in-house signage, for example, the quality of the experience. So think of your experience right now. If I walked into your restaurant today, is there a sign at the hostess station that is maybe promoting something? I don't know, maybe it's booked now for private events. If I see a sign hanging maybe above the bar, does it talk about Monday night promotions? If I sit down at the table and then I open up the menu, is there a menu insert and does it say something else? Then you've got the staff member coming to wait on the table. Does he or she have a button on the apron and maybe it says something else? These are the common misperceptions of local store marketing. These are the most common mistakes we all, myself included, used to make before we got wiser and we learned about how marketing works. So local store marketing is trying to create a consistent experience and send a proper, consistent message of what we want the guests to understand about us while we're there. So 4 or 5 or 6 different things isn't good marketing. 4 or 5 different things going on at one time is just confusion. Okay, so please remember that. Many times we work with people and they'll say, my marketing is not working and I'm trying everything. I mean, I'm pushing breakfast, I'm pushing lunch specials, I'm pushing desserts, I'm pushing Monday Night Football. I mean, I'm running out of things to push. I'm pushing everything. I'm pushing all the buttons and I'm stressing because sales aren't building. Does that sound familiar to anybody? So remember, if we take a look and we go back to what I said earlier, we go back to our plan, we should plan when we want to promote what. When do we want to promote, say, back to school things in maybe August or September? Then when do we want to promote maybe holiday gift card purchasing and book your holiday party now? And then after the holidays, when are we going to promote maybe it is the Valentine's Day thing or the private party thing? What do we want to do for the outside patios in the summer? See, so when we line them up, then local store marketing sends out a consistent message. When I walk in, I should see the poster that says the same thing as the menu insert, that says the same thing as the button. This is a lesson that maybe we could kind of learn from, many chains in your neighborhood. It's the one thing that we can kind of learn from them is that marketing seems to be done well. And obviously it's done pretty well if you can have a home office and if you can afford marketing specialists, people that analyze consumer trends, people that look at your item sales reports, people that look at seasonality, and they come up with when would be the right time to make a good purchase of this food item, so that we can then make a really good promotional run, a chocolate dessert, or who remembers years ago when Chili's was doing the baby back rib thing, and they would have the song being sung. So trust me, if they wanted to sell ribs, and if you walked into one of them, you would probably see the poster with a big picture of the ribs. Outside, there was probably a banner, that said, welcome to Ribomania, and the server probably had a button on that said something about ribs. If you open up the menu, they had a paper insert to slap you in the face, and it was a rib. The message was consistent. That's the point I'm trying to drive home. Most of us do that wrong, but if we do a good plan, and if we can select what we want to do and do one thing at a time, if we're promoting Sunday brunch, then that means the poster should say something about this beautiful, don't miss out on our weekend brunch. We should have a cool button that says brunch. Our menu insert should say brunch. When the server is doing suggestive selling, they should ask them, do you live in the area? You should come by on the weekend. We've got a killer weekend brunch. Okay, so it should be consistent. Local store marketing needs to incorporate the experience that people are given. And so that means anything that's placed before them, anything they're seeing, anything they're hearing, anything that they're being told, in-house signage, materials, really need to be consistent with the quality of the experience that we are delivering. Okay, getting existing customers to use us more, for example, or getting an existing customer to spend more while they're there, or getting an existing customer to maybe plan to come back and bring someone when they do, typically is a positive reaction from a local store marketing experience that worked. Okay, so that's how you want to rate if it's working. If I created an experience that sent out a positive message and it meant that that person's going to come back and do that, or because of that, they're going to maybe spend something on a higher priced item that I was promoting, or when they come, they bring someone with them. All three of those things do what? All three of those things raise revenue. The goal of marketing, increase sales. So local store marketing can help us increase sales off the people that already know us. They already like us. They're already there. Rather than chasing advertising money to go get that elusive new guest who doesn't know us. And so maybe if we spend a lot of our time raising revenue from those that are already there. And that's how I like to rate how your local store marketing is working, because you can get a revenue bump. You know, think about that. Here's a good specific example. Family restaurant, husband and wife team, never been in the restaurant business before. They left Dell Computer in Austin, Texas to move back home. Isn't that odd? I mean, somebody actually moving away from Austin, but anyway, that's another subject. So they moved to Alexandria, Louisiana. That's where they were raised. That's where they wanted to raise their kids. They love the small town atmosphere. So what are we going to do now that we left computers? Why not buy a restaurant? So with no prior experience, they have a cool, casual neighborhood burger, American, knife and fork, salads, fajitas, full bar kind of restaurant. And once we started working with them, they realized that. They kept talking about how they needed to conquer more of the city. It's a small city. I got to get everyone here. The only way to raise income is to get more people, more people, more people. But then we started understanding, wait a minute, you've got a really good local following. If we could come up with a plan of promoting special things, like let's promote a dinner package when you do your live entertainment night. And this dinner package might be a combination of 2 or 3 things that people like. So they came up with a mixed grill, and it came up with a small portion of dessert. So the good news is it introduced them into this really cool chocolatey dessert. Because as some of you who operate restaurants know, a lot of times you put a lot of effort into your really cool baked on site desserts. People are too full. People don't order desserts. It's always a tough fight to get the servers to promote, save room for dessert, because they go, why? Most of the people don't do it. They just pay and they leave. Anyway, so with this package, it was a little bit more than if they just ordered off the menu, because it was a mixed grill and it came with a half portion of dessert. So 2 things happened, both good. A revenue increase. They got the same amount of people in the dining room for their Wednesday night local entertainment night, but because almost half of the Wednesday night crowd ordered their special, they had about a 15% increase in revenue. Same amount of people, raise in revenue. Then the other thing that they noticed was over the next few weeks, their dessert sales went up from, say, that 4 to 5% of total menu to 8%. Well, that was wonderful. We were introducing dessert, and we did it in a way that packaged something and raised revenue. So that's just one example. You guys out there might think of how you could do something like that in your place. I worked with another group that said, we're going to raise revenue by getting people to eat desserts. And the way they did it was they would do small little dessert samples for free. Those tiny little souffle cups that you probably have in your in your kitchens right now, they would tell the managers to take, I don't know, X amount of pieces of dessert. Maybe it was 4 or 5 pieces of a cheesecake or 3 or 4 pieces of a carrot cake, cut it into small squares in the souffle cup with a toothpick in it, and just walk the floor and go to tables that did not order dessert and say, listen, we just baked this today. We'd love you to try it. Tell us what you think. Maybe you'll order a dessert next time. Well, first off, wasn't that great service? Wouldn't you just love that if you were finishing your meal and someone walked by and said, you didn't order dessert. You probably don't have time for a whole piece of cheesecake, but our cheesecake's so good. Here, just take a tiny little taste. Tell me what you think. How cool is that? So of course you do. No one turns it down. So of course they do. They love it. They leave with a smile on their face. Good marketing. And what did this cost us? If you take a look at what 4 or 5 pieces of a cake cut into small pieces cost you, what did you sell a piece of dessert for? Say $5, $6, and it really cost you what? Maybe $2 to make that piece of cake? Let's say you gave 4 pieces away. So you gave away $8, right? So you do that a couple times a week. We're up to $16. Maybe we round it to 20. So we're giving away $80 a month. It's the cheapest marketing program I can think of. What else could you do in your neighborhood for $80? Maybe $100. What, anything, anybody? You couldn't even buy one of those small little church bulletin ads that you always see on the back of the bulletin, Sunday church, and no one reads anyway, but even that costs more. So this is great promotion, because what happens is some of the people actually, because you gave them a little bite of dessert, stayed, ordered a cup of coffee. Well, now you just made $3 that you wouldn't have made. Everyone left happy, and you're promoting dessert. So in atmospheres that did this, we noticed that revenue did go up, and it went up because of the items we were promoting. They probably sold more desserts. So again, local store marketing can be menu related. It can be event related, like he did with his local store entertainment. It can be, for those of you that maybe have the chef-driven restaurant, it could be wine related. The wine club, the Thursday night wine dinner, or maybe you put together a package meal. And maybe the meal is a little bit more expensive than the regular menu. So that means the diners come in, order that option, you just raised revenue. And for that, you're giving them little tastes of wine that you would like them to learn about anyway, because if they like it, maybe they'll order more wine when they're at your restaurant. So this is all things that I see working well. These are all things that work under the first category of social media. I'm sorry, first category, local store marketing. We haven't gotten to social media yet. So let's jump into step 2. Remember I said there were 3 things that have to be part of your marketing plan, and we only talked about the local store marketing, the events, the experience, the planning of the year, the promoting of the items, and making sure that when we promote these items, we do it consistently. So if we're talking about dessert, just be dessert. Okay, everything is just death by chocolate. In the menu insert, on the poster, dessert contest. In a couple of weeks, you can switch to something else, but be consistent. Okay, now let's talk about examples of media. Media is best when it supports what your local store marketing is. It's supporting your menu promotions. It's supporting whatever your event is. Media doesn't necessarily work that well anymore if it's just general. Years ago, we could just say, whatever, we're the best steak, eat here. And it was very general. However, the way consumer behavior has changed over the last decade or more. We think in terms of more specific. So we react better when we can maybe see a unique photo of food and it describes the Spanish style of offering that represents your restaurant. So we need to be a little more specific. That's our first note. Radio, TV, print, brochures, reinforcement directionals like billboards are all standard parts of media. We know that. But the biggest and fastest growing and most popular part of media is the social media. The use of Instagram, the use of your Facebooks, an active and well-managed website. YouTube videos of people cooking and baking. How about video streams that you actually run in your restaurant? Has anybody done that? And they're so much easier to do now. There's a little dessert restaurant. Here I am on dessert again. I don't know, forgive me. It's not like I eat a lot of sweets, but But there is a wonderful, wonderful operation, and it's called Dessert Gallery. You guys might want to look them up. She does brilliant marketing, website marketing, email club that people join to get cool desserts, ships cookies nationwide. But I think she would say that one of the smartest things she ever did, and she was very nervous about it because it was a film that they did themselves, you know, really cheap, in their kitchen. And like most of us, we may not have those really cool cutting edge chef kitchens that we see on TV. A lot of you are working with, you know, kitchens that are the stainless steel and the white RFP and maybe not the best of lighting. But she was able to get a really good shot of desserts going in and out of the oven, muffins in the convection oven being baked, people putting the chocolate icing on the cupcakes, really good close-ups of the sprinkles falling. And so made a little tape of just the baking of desserts. And then this tape was played on a zip drive into the little flat screen TV, a small one on the wall with a really cool frame around it. So when people walked in, they see this framed picture. All it was a beautifully big, ornate picture frame around a small flat screen. And the flat screen constantly showed the chocolate, the sprinkles, the ooey gooey icing dripping, the going in and out of the oven. So you didn't see the kitchen. You didn't really see that this was maybe an old oven that had maybe some stains. You just saw the, you know, food center. These are things that you can do on your own. These are things now that can be posted as YouTube. These are videos that should be on your website. So the more we do social media isn't just communicating. I'm hoping that all of you are communicating with your guests, with your email newsletters, with your monthly specials or your, your community programming. So you've got constant going out to the list. This really sets you up for a couple of things. If you're doing this properly, it sets you up for really good bonding. You know, right now, and I think Facebook maybe taught us this, people have that yearning to connect. We want to belong, you know? So it's almost like if we didn't belong to your restaurant group, but my friend did, I would think something was wrong. Why are you getting that notification? I see this with my daughters. One will get a notification, the other doesn't. It's almost like, how did that happen? We were reacting positively to being notified about something special. No one wants to miss out. Now, who knows? Marketing moves so quickly. A couple of years from now, if we're talking, that might be passé. We might feel like we're getting, I don't know, overkill. Just like we were with, say, coupons. I don't know if everyone remembers, those were all the rage. We couldn't get restaurants away from them. People were mailing things to the post, through the post, and everyone was looking forward to those value packs. And now, of course, it's been inundated. It's been overkill. People don't just want to see 25% off this, quarter off this. In fact, people don't want the paper coupons. They think ill of us for killing the damn tree. So we will move on, we will change, but right now this is what's working. So media is mostly social now. So going back to that annual plan, any of the events you're planning, any of the menu updates, any of the things that work for you, you start having to come up with a timeline to say, when does the email blast go out? What's it going to look like? Who's doing the photo? How many times a year should I update a cool video that just shows our barbecue on the pits, or shows our catering being loaded, or again, shows our desserts being iced? So when do I do that? Who's going to do that? What will it cost? If it's planned, it's a whole lot easier to happen. If we're simply saying, oh yeah, I know that, I've done that before. Okay, that's good, but that's not a plan. And that means that just because we know how to do it and we've done it before, it doesn't mean that we're going to be doing it regularly enough. So we really do want to make sure that we get that top of mind awareness and we keep it. And using the digital media is the way that's going now. Here's another thing, another benefit of having those people feeling connected is not a lot, because we don't want to burn the bridge, but maybe a couple times a year, restaurants can learn from their customers that are getting that email newsletter every week, or maybe every other week, and they're getting a special, and they're being told what's going on in the restaurant and what's the new promo. And then all of a sudden they get one saying, scroll down, please take 5 minutes, answer a survey. And maybe you get that click and people will get a gift card for sending in the survey, or maybe they get a free dessert for sending in the survey. But some people are doing that now just to constantly learn about their consumers' preferences, asking them just a few quick questions about menu preferences, or the amount of time they go out, or how much they spend when they go out, or their preferences for eating restaurant food in their home now for curbside pickup versus in the dining room, or asking them questions about their favorite menu item. Would they react well if they could buy a large portion of items that were frozen that they could, say, thaw and bake later? That's how one restaurant that I know got into doing his pans of lasagna. He said, I never knew that they would sell. He said, I just started asking, and now I have a freezer full of the pans of lasagna. People come in, they'll order the restaurant. Sometimes people just go online. Sometimes people are calling. Sometimes people are doing curbside pickup, but they're getting this big pan of lasagna that feeds the family that they're going to thaw and bake later. So, and why not do that? Why not get back at those grocery stores that right now are getting back at us? Don't you just hate that when you go to your neighborhood HEB? And I started forgetting that they're in the grocery business because they keep expanding the aisles selling prepackaged meals. It's basically a sign saying, why go to a restaurant? Look at this pretty salmon with this perfectly grilled asparagus and this little dab of garlic butter. Pop it in the microwave. You don't have to leave home. Don't go to the restaurant. Look at the sliced marinated fajitas, over here that come with this and come with that. I look at that, I go, ah. So anyway, grocery stores want to be restaurants, and it seems to work for them. So in our marketing plan, why not see what can you do in your restaurant that might become a packaged item? You guys go to those catfish parlors. I think there's 2 of them in Austin, and they're run by brothers, wonderful family. They have a tartar sauce that they spike with a little seasoning and jalapeno. And customers started requesting, the tartar sauce to go. Years ago when I was working with them, just to keep up, they were taking little styrofoam cups and they were ladling the, tartar sauce, putting the lid on it and selling it for $1 or $2. They'd have the hostess at the door promoting, who wants our, family recipe tartar sauce? Who wants it? Well, guess what? That doesn't work anymore. They went to Texas, France, just in Round Rock, I think, north of Dallas, a great commercial kitchen that did all the nutritional testing, did all the labeling, jarred it. Now they're selling it in jars. HEB's picked it up. You can find it in most of the Buc-ee's. And so they're selling jalapeno tartar sauce, bearing the name of their restaurant. So, getting into the retail market can be a completely different Zoom webinar. Restaurants are doing it. We're working with 2, getting them to do it now. It's a different subject. However, it all starts from listening to what your customers will do. And how do we know that if we're not properly marketing to them? So marketing can sometimes answer a price question. How many of you have thought that maybe you would be busier if your prices were cheaper? I don't know why, but sometimes that's just guilt. I still remember that happening to me. I remember years ago in the very first restaurant I owned, and I did my very first price increase across the board. Things just had to go up. I, honest to God, thought I had visions of the guests standing up and throwing tomatoes at me. I just thought there would just be, I thought there would be a mutiny or something. Instead, it went, smoothly. If prices are properly managed, pricing doesn't become an issue. So when we do marketing and we're doing a questionnaire and we're asking them questions about their habits, why not ask them, what are the 2 or 3 restaurants that they go to when they're not busy eating at yours? Now, what kind of question is that? That's an indirect question. So you always get direct information from indirect questions. Okay, so if you ask a question that way, please list the 2 or 3 restaurants you enjoy going to when you're not busy dining at ours. It's a nice complimentary way of giving yourself top billing. But what that question really is, it's a price question. Because what are you going to do when you go through those 100 or 200 surveys and you start categorizing the restaurants that they go to when they're not dining with you? I know what you're going to do. You'll do the same thing everyone does. You're going to go to those websites unless you have those restaurants committed to memory, because maybe they're restaurants that you go to also. And maybe the menus aren't identical. They probably aren't, but you're still going to see if the experience costs the same. You're going to want to compare their entrees to the range of your entrees. You're going to want to compare their sides, their soups, their salads, their appetizers, their desserts. So this way, if you realize that, I thought maybe my prices were kind of expensive, but everywhere they go is either priced like me or actually priced a little higher than me. We had a seafood restaurant we worked with once, and most all of the marketing specials that we came up with to help him do good local store marketing, he was reluctant to add because they were higher in price. But we were trying to explain to him that, if you follow what your guests are doing, the idea of the wood plank seafood, the fresher seafood, it is more expensive, but that's what people are eating. Well, only when he got his survey back and we asked that question, and he saw that the people listed restaurants, and about, 60 or 70% of the restaurants that they listed were all more expensive than him. Only when he saw that did he say, yeah, maybe they're not going to have mutiny. Maybe they're not going to slash my tires if I start rolling out daily specials that are $4 and $5 higher than my menu. He rolled them out. They were phenomenally successful. We raised revenue. And again, that's what marketing's supposed to do. So those are examples of how social media can work, not just getting the message out, but getting information back in. Make sense? Think about that next time you're writing up your marketing plan. Okay, now here's a big one, and hopefully you guys are already doing this one well. But the third part of a marketing plan is the image building. Remember, the public relations. The restaurants work really, really well when they have a positive image among their customers. So public relations, being involved in different community events, giving back to the community, providing events that maybe raise funds for others, seasonal promotions that are good for the community. These are all really good things. And the cost of doing these things should be categorized to marketing because it's getting your brand out. But if you're doing this in a way, however, that is good for others, you're doing community programming, you're doing good, and in restaurants, doing good for others is also a way of doing good for your business. People like doing business with people they like. And so when Cali Barbecue, for example, did their first outdoor event, and it was a big barbecue, pay at the door, and all the money went to the women's shelter. It was a barbecue for charity. They thought they would do it once. It got so big, it's their annual event. So when restaurants live by the adage of wanting their restaurant to stand for something that gives back, that's pretty much the best part of marketing. So remember now, you can't go nuts. No one can do everything, but everyone can do something. So restaurant operators, pick the something. Is it the food pantry? Is it education? Is it the schools? Is it the homeless situation? What's the one thing that you through your restaurant would like to help? There are some examples that just pop into mind. I'm thinking of this one Greek restaurant, independent restaurant, and he noticed that whenever there was a neighborhood blood drive, you guys probably have them there too, where they get the big van and everyone promotes for about a week, please go to the library and, give blood. United Way backs it, picks up a lot of media. You hear it on the radio, you hear it on TV. So one year, years ago, he said, why don't you, instead of going to the public library, use my parking lot? I have a big parking lot. Saturday morning, use my parking lot. And then instead of people just getting a small shot of juice and a little Oreo cookie for giving blood, I'm going to give them some free chocolate dessert. So of course it worked. Well, it was also great feel good for him to be doing something nice for the community. But it was a wonderful public relations thing, because now what happens when the TV is talking about the United Way blood drive for a week on the news, and when the radio spots are doing it, they're not talking about going to the library. They're talking about going to, the Hero Place. So you're getting great publicity. Going back to the Catfish Parlor guys, one year I remember, they may still be doing it, but years ago I remember where they felt like, since their family was in education, I forget now if it was the mother that was a teacher, but they felt like they wanted to help neighborhood schools. Education was their thing. So they reached out to the school. They may be still doing this, I don't know, but it's the Catfish Parlor in North Austin. They reached out to the school in the neighborhood and they said, why don't you tell us, something that you need, because there's always those needs. We all know if you've got kids in school, there's always those needs, and property taxes don't cover all of the needs. So I think one year it was office furniture for the teachers lounge. I think one year it was maybe money to go towards band uniforms. But what they decided to do is promote in their restaurant, big sign that if you dine in on Monday evenings, pick a slow night, that 10% of the revenue would be saved for the such and such middle school help or whatever we needed. So on a slow night, guys, 10% of your revenue might not seem like an awful lot of money. It's $40 here, it's $100 there, it's okay. But hey, in a 9-month school term, now it adds up. At the end of 9 months, now you've got a few $1,000s or so to give to the school. They can go buy the furniture and the coffee equipment, or they can go, buy the monkey bars that they needed to in the kindergarten playground. And so, you raised awareness, the dining public rallied, you did something good, and this marketed your brand well. So I really think whether it's education, whether it's music. A restaurant in Louisiana, for example, does this for disadvantaged children who want to take band but can't afford an instrument. So they do a big event where they get other restaurants and they'll do an outdoor event. People pay some money at the door, they taste the food, they listen to local music, and all the money goes to the school system to be able to help buy clarinets, flutes, violins, or whatever for kids who really want to be in the band. And the only thing holding them back is they just can't afford the instrument. So these are wonderful things that restaurants are in a position to do. We can rally other businesses and we can throw cool events, or we can help those in need. And by doing so, it comes back around and helps us too. It develops the right image. So public relations, big part of your annual plan. Sometimes these three aren't necessarily equal. A lot of restaurants maybe do a lot more local store marketing, a really good plan. They're doing something in-house every single month, and their media backs it up by doing heavy social media every week. And then the community involvement is maybe less, doing one thing a year. So it's not like the 3 steps of good restaurant marketing are an equal triangle. There are some restaurants that I know that might spend more on media, less on local store promotions. Some restaurants are very, very heavy in public relations. High-end restaurants seem to do really good PR. They want to be written in the social pages, so they're throwing more events, they're hosting more meetings and that kind of thing. So you kind of have to pick what works best for you or what works best for your client. Just remember that marketing has gone digital. So, with technology, we have to keep up. Hopefully your website isn't behind, but everyone is needing a very active, quick, convenient way of being able to know who you are, where you are, what you're serving, and why I should go there. So if within seconds I can't see that on your website, then everyone should be working now on updating our web so that we're sending a positive, very quick message. There's value in technology even in-house. People are reacting very well to touchless payment, kiosk pads. And so maybe that should be part of your plan in the near future. There is a movement where people are feeling that COVID was so much more than just a speed bump, that even when we do feel more comfortable, even when we do feel more active, even when there's fewer hesitant people that you're talking to and a lot more of the active people, that they're going to be coming back in a different way. And I agree. I'm not certain that buying habits are going to totally shift back ever to the way they were before COVID, because I really think some restaurants have done so well with marketing to go, online ordering, curbside pickup, that we don't want to forget about that when we're 3 months from now and more vaccines are out, or we're 8 months, or instead of 75% capacity, restaurants can be at 100% capacity. So that's kind of like my parting shot here is, don't forget in your marketing plan that that we're living through may not be a temporary buying habit change, and then we're going to go back to our old ways of feeding people in our dining room, and our old ways of doing our menu, and our old ways of marketing it. I'm looking forward to the day when we can operate like we used to in dining rooms. But I just think that that day is still going to have the need for you to market what's been working with your to-go packaging, your curbside pickup. Hopefully you have a very good marketing way of doing follow-up, phone ordering, online ordering. I know of a couple restaurants that because they're texting back and forth, you've got the cell number, you're telling people what parking space to pull into when we deliver the food. So I know many restaurants that are just sending a nice thank you text the next day or calling the next day. And isn't that nice just to get a phone call? Thank you. We see that you ordered your dinner and you picked it up at our blah, blah, blah branch yesterday at 6:30. We hope the dinner was fine. My name is Teresa. Please call me when you're placing your next order, or let me know if there's anything special we can do for you at any time. So a lot of times people don't answer it, maybe because they don't recognize the number. It just goes into a voicemail or something. And what a pleasant voicemail when you're sitting there and you're checking a bunch of messages to get this nice thank you for your order yesterday. And contact me if you'd like anything special when you place your next order. Get it? Thank you, making you feel good. Next order, trying to promote again. So there are things that some people are beginning to do that we didn't necessarily do. I've even seen thank you notes in the to-go packaging. So we do the curbside pickup, somebody comes up, they wave, they put it in the back seat, you get home and here's this nice little note. I thought, that was kind of nice. And what's even better is then you flip the note over and it's a reminder of what the next week's specials are. Thank you on one side, promote for business on the other side. That's how we do our marketing. That's how we tell our story. So I know we're just about out of time. But in summary, that's kind of my biggest points for you to remember marketing is a plan. It isn't just an ad. Marketing starts with operations, and your operations are broader now. Your operations are inside, outside, on the web, through the email, through a third-party delivery. That's how we're operating now. So we have more to look for. You really do want to sit with your key people and take a look at the events that work well, the media that's good to promote those, and what community programming works for you. And if everyone does that, you'll have a very, very good, positive, much easier to implement, easier to supervise marketing plan for your restaurant.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. What we're going to do, I want to bring a couple of things to your attention. We will have a little bit of a Q&A. I see that there is a question here. Within this chat box, I went ahead and included the survey link. If you could please take a moment just to complete our survey. It's going to tell us how we did and if there's anything that maybe in the future you would like to see. Again, we are actually, due to COVID funding, we are able to bring on Chris as a consultant. So if you are an SBDC client of ours, please reach out to your advisor. If you're not, our services are at no cost since we're federal, state, locally funded. I've dropped the link there as well to go ahead and sign up to become a client. If you're outside of our 12 county coverages, which is Williamson, Austin, all the way down to San Marcos, shoot me an email. The email address is also in the chat box, and I'll make sure to get you in contact with the closest SBDC to your area. And then also one more plug, we will be having Chris back next week on March 3rd to discuss the future of service. And with that, I want to go ahead and open up questions. Right now we have one from Randy. He's asking Chris, what is your position on loyalty programs?
Oh, well, some of them are good. I think the idea of developing loyalty, the premise and rewarding people for frequency is wonderful. Now, whether you do that through a particular loyalty program that's managed for you, where people come a certain amount of time, or they have to get a certain percentage off, or if you develop something like that on your own, which you can do. Many restaurants are doing that now, where they're getting people to give them their email address and they're emailing them and on their own and asking them to either join a particular club for either wine dinners or for whatever. And by doing that, they get a reward. It's an extra $10 gift certificate card that they can use on their next visit. So I think the premise of loyalty is wonderful. Some might work better than others. I think we've outgrown just the birthday club, old-fashioned loyalty, program. There's still some of those mailing lists that are out there that I don't know if they work as well. We may have outgrown, unless you're really a small limited menu that's convenience, like say donut, custom yogurt, gelato shop. We may have outgrown that where you come in and we're, making note of online, or we're punching a card and after 8 you get one free. But the principle behind all of those is alive and well. So I like it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. If anybody wants to unmute themselves, if it's a little bit easier to ask your questions, please feel free to do so. With that, I want to go ahead and thank everybody for joining us today again. Thank you so much, Chris. We will see you all next week. I will be sure to send a follow-up email to include the survey link, the link to our upcoming workshop so that you can go ahead and register for that. And also, if you are not an SBDC client, to sign up for one. Everybody, please take care. And I hope that you have a great rest of your week. Thank you, everybody.